United Nations concept and object. The Organization of the United Nations is an international organization founded in 1945. As the organization center of the countries is for to achieve two common purposes: maintain international peace and security, promote relationship of the friendships between the nations, and three, coordinate international cooperation in solving international problems of social, economic, cultural, and humanitarian nature. Background of the United Nations. Among the background to the United Nations organization we can highlight A. In, in 1899, the first international conference on peace was held in the House. The conference approved the Convention for the Pacific Settlement of International Disputes. In 1902, the Permanent Court Arbitration was established. V. League of the Nations, an organization conceived during the First World War, established in 1919. In according with 13 verses, its objective was promote international cooperation and achieve peace and security. The League Nations ceased its activities failing to avoid the war. Second, history of the United Nations. The United Nations officially began to exist October 24, 2045, and few months earlier, on April 25, representatives from 60 countries in San Francisco to hold the United Nations Conference on International Organization. This lead the creation of the Charters of the United Nations. In it, the 111 articles that make you Constitution of the United Nations were derived on in this way were albeit high price declaration this organization in October 24. The United Nations has had due date evaluation that the world suffering during second half to 20th century and so far in 21st century. Among these changes we can highlight one. In the case of member countries, currently the body have 192 member countries. Second, the end of the Cold War. Three, strength for society and the globalization of the problems search on the environment, poverty, terrorists, drug trafficking, and access to education.
Principle of the United Nations. Among the principles of the United Nations established in this letter, we highlight 1. The organization is based on the sovereign equality of all its members. 2. All members shall comply with their obligations under the Charter of the United Nations. 3. The members of the organization shall settle their international disputes by peaceful means in such a manner as not to endanger peace and international security or justice. 4. The members of the organization in their international relations shall refrain from resorting to the threat or use of force. 5. The organization shall ensure that the states that are not members of the United Nations conduct themselves in accordance with those principles as necessary in order to maintain international peace and security. The structure of the United Nations. The UN is composed of six main organs, namely the General Assembly, the Security Council, the Economic and Social Council, the Strategic Council, the Secretariat, and the International Court of Justice. Achievements of the United Nations. Among the achievements of this organization are: 1. The United Nations has formulated the historic Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. 2. More than 80 human rights treaties that help protect and promote specific rights. 3. The World Food Programme provides approximately one-third of the world food aid each year. 4. Environmental conventions have helped reduce acid rain in Europe and North America, cut off maritime pollution worldwide, and progressively remove the production of gases that destroy Earth's ozone layer. 5. UN petitions have raised funds of more than $1 billion per year to help victims of war and catastrophes.
The European Union is a political community of law constituted under a sui generis regime of international organization created to foster and welcome the common integration and governments of the states and peoples of Europe. It is composed of 28 European states and was established with the entry into force of the Treaty on the European Union in November 1993. With this act, the European Union superstructure combined and was based on the three pre-existing European communities: the European Coal and Steel Community, the European Atomic Energy Community, and the European Economic Community, and added the common foreign policy and judicial and police cooperation, forming a complex system known as the Three Pillars. However, with the entry into force on December 1, 2009 of the Treaty of Lisbon, the European Union succeeded, albeit with certain peculiarities, to European communities and assumed its unique legal personality as a subject of international law. The European Union was developed a legal and political system. The European Community, unique in the world, which is governed by complex internal operating mechanisms and procedures, which have been extended and evolved throughout its history to the present. A hybrid system of transnational government what is difficult to homologate, combining elements that are close to multilateral cooperation, although strongly structured and institutionalized, with other of purely supranational vocation, both governed by a dynamic of very marked regional integration. All this leads to a very peculiar community of law, whose legal and political nature is most discussed, although its foundational elements and its historical evolution still open, point in the present to a special form of modern confederations, supranational governments, accused, institutionalized, and with a historical political inspiration of federal vocation in the sense of a new international federalism, not a classic federal state, what is detected by some clarity in areas such as European citizenship, the principles of primacy and direct effects that they are applicable to your legal system in relation to the national ordinances, the jurisdictional system, or the monetary union, the euro system.
The European Union and before the communities promotes continental integration through common policies that cover different spheres of action in their origin essentially economic and progressively extended to undoubtedly political areas. In order to achieve their common objective, the states of the Union attribute these powers to them, exercising a common or shared sovereignty that is deployed through community channels. The European Union is governed by an internal system in a regime of representative democracy. Its institutions are seven: the European Parliament, the European Council, the European Commission, the Court of Justice of the European Union, the Court of Auditors, and the European Central Bank. The European Council exercises functions of general political orientation and external representation, and appoints the heads of the high constitutional institutions. The European Parliament and the Council exercise legislative power on an equal footing, taking joint decisions with the exception of special legislative procedures, where Parliament plays a purely consultative role. The Commission or College of Commissioners applies the law of the Union over its informants and implements its policies, and it corresponds exclusively to the legislative initiative before the Parliament and the Commission. The Court of Justice exercises the supreme jurisdictional task in the community legal system. The Court of Auditors supervises and controls the proper functioning and proper administration of finances and community funds, and the European Central Bank directs and applies the single monetary policy of the Eurozone. The Union also has other bodies with different functions and powers, such as the Economic and Social Committee and the Committee of the Regions. The European Ombudsman, the High Representative of the Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, among others. In 2012, the European Union won the Nobel Peace Prize, which was unanimously awarded by all the members of the jury for its contribution during 6 decades to the advancements of peace and reconciliation, democracy, and the human rights in Europe. In 2017, she was awarded the Princess of Asturias Award for Concord for achieving the longest period of peace in modern Europe, collaborating with the implementation and diffusion in the world of values such as freedom, human rights, and solidarity.
The Commonwealth of Nations is an organization composed of 52 countries that, with the exception of Mozambique and Rwanda, share historical ties with the United Kingdom. Its main objective is international cooperation in the political and economic sphere, and since 1950 membership does not imply any submission to the British Crown. With the entry of Mozambique, the organization has favored the term Commonwealth of Nations to underline its internationalist character. However, the British adjective is still used frequently to differentiate it from the other existing international Commonwealth. Queen Elizabeth II of the United Kingdom is the head of the organization according to the principle of the Commonwealth, about the free association of its members. The organization has its origin in the Imperial Conference of 1920, when the British government recognized certain rights of self-determination of federal colonies and began the war that culminated with the Statute of Westminster in 1931, and that gave rise to the Commonwealth. England, it is managed by a General Secretary based in the city of London and which, at present, is occupied by the Indian Kamala Sharma. Other sister organizations that collaborate with the Forum of the General Secretary are the Foundation of the Commonwealth and the Commonwealth of Learning with headquarters in London and the Lextai in the city of Vancouver, Canada. Similar initiatives to unite the bonds of cooperation between nations with linguistic, cultural, and historical ties are the organization of Ibero-American states with respect to nations under the influence of Spain and Portugal, and the now extinct French Union and the current International Organization of La Francophonie with respect to French Empire. Although its structure and dynamics differ, Both the British Commonwealth of Nations and the Organization of Ibero-American States are similar in their efforts to foster cooperation and free exchange between former empires and their former domains. The entry of Mozambique in 1995 triggered a controversy at the international level as the former Portuguese colony in Africa had no connection with the British community, and the maneuver was described as a kind of cultural and economic neo-imperialism in a region afflicted by poverty. The General Secretariat of the organization justified the fact with the apparent cooperation of Mozambique in the crusade of the Commonwealth against racism in Africa, particularly in South Africa and Zimbabwe. To avoid similar situations since the Edinburgh Summit in 1997, the organization limited the incorporation only to those nations that have some constitutional link with the nation of the Commonwealth and commit themselves to respect the norms and conventions existing in it. However, in November 29, the situation was repeated with Rwanda and former German and the Belgian protectorate, and therefore unrelated to the British community when it was accepted as a member 54 of the Commonwealth and the meeting held of Port of Spain, capital of Trinidad and Tobago. Currently, the Commonwealth lacks a constitution, but its members voluntarily commit themselves to comply with the Declaration of Principles of the Commonwealth signed in Singapore in 1971 and ratified in the Harare Declaration of 1991. In general terms, the Declaration recognizes the importance of democracy and good governance, respect for human rights, equality between men and women, respect for land, and sustainable socio-economic development. The financing of the organization comes from the government that participate with a quota calculated from the gross national product and the size of the population of each country. As anecdotal data, a characteristic of the Commonwealth country is that their sense of circulation is generally on the left, different from the other countries where it's on the right. The section are Canada and Belize, since despite being both members of the Commonwealth, they established their sense of circulation on the right.